Have you ever looked at your phone waiting for a message from your son or daughter, only to realize it's been days, maybe weeks? You wonder, did I do something wrong? Why don't they call? And even if they do, it feels quick, rushed, like you're an item to check off their to-do list before they go on with their busy lives. It's a hard feeling to describe, but if you felt it, that quiet ache of being left behind, you're not alone. I want you to know that first. As we get older, many of us expect our children to draw closer, not drift away. After all, we were the ones who fed them, stayed up all night when they were sick, cheered at their school plays, worried when they were late, sacrificed so much so they could have a better life. So when they don't chase us, when they seem to ignore us, it's more than just silence. It's heartbreak. But here's the truth that most people don't say out loud. Love doesn't always mean attention. And attention, especially from grown children, isn't something that comes automatically. It's something that, whether we like it or not, is influenced by how we show up as parents, even after our kids are grown. Now, this is not about blaming yourself. This is about empowering yourself. There are patterns, unconscious behaviors many parents fall into that actually push their children away. And on the flip side, there are quiet traits that pull kids back in, even after years of distance. And the good news is, it's never too late to change the energy. Let's start with the hard part, the mistakes nice parents often make without realizing it. Yes, I said nice parents, because being too nice can sometimes backfire. Many older parents try to win their kids' affection by being endlessly available, overly accommodating, or giving too much. Money, time, advice, anything. It comes from a place of love, but it can feel smothering, or worse, desperate. Have you ever offered to pay for something they didn't ask for? Rearranged your whole day just to match their schedule, even when they barely acknowledged it? Or kept your opinions to yourself, again, because you didn't want to rock the boat? You may think you're showing love, but to them, it can come across as neediness, as if your whole world revolves around their presence. And let's be honest, nobody, no matter how much they love you, wants to feel responsible for someone else's happiness. Especially not adult children who are already juggling careers, families, and their own struggles. You see, when we bend over backwards to please, to give, to be liked, we become predictable. And something strange happens when you're too predictable. People stop valuing your time. They stop seeing you as an equal. Instead of being chased, you're quietly dismissed. It's a strange thing, isn't it? You spend your whole life putting your kids first, and then suddenly, that very habit makes them drift away. Now contrast that with the kind of parent children are drawn to. Not out of guilt, but out of genuine respect. They're often the ones who don't chase. They're the ones who have lives of their own. Routines, passions, opinions, boundaries. The ones who can say no gently, who don't over-explain themselves, who don't keep tabs or throw guilt trips. And yet these are the very parents their kids want to visit, want to listen to, want to impress. Why? Because children, no matter how old they get, are still wired to seek strength, to admire it, to feel safe around it. And strength doesn't always look like force. Sometimes strength looks like calm, like self-respect, like quiet confidence. Think of someone who walks into a room and doesn't need to be loud to be noticed. They're just grounded. They don't chase validation. They don't beg to be seen. They are seen because they carry something others want to be near. That's what I call a high-value parent. And no, it has nothing to do with money and everything to do with presence. You may be thinking, but I've always been there for my kids. I've given them everything. Doesn't that count? Of course it does. But giving everything doesn't always mean giving the right things. Sometimes the most powerful gift you can give your children isn't your wallet, or your silence, or your endless availability. Sometimes it's showing them how to stand tall, how to be someone who values their own time, their own peace, their own growth. You see, kids, even adult kids, watch more than they listen. They mirror your emotional state. If they sense you're always waiting, always lonely, always needing their call to feel whole, they start pulling away. Not because they don't love you, but because they don't know how to carry that emotional weight. It's too heavy. They'll avoid it without even realizing why. But if they see you engaged in life, even in small ways, it does something to them. If they hear your voice light up about a new book, or a walking group you joined, or a recipe you mastered, or a neighbor you had coffee with, they suddenly remember, wait, Mom's got her own thing going on? Or, wow, Dad sounds really centered lately. That curiosity leads to connection. That's when the phone starts ringing again, not because they feel bad, but because they feel drawn. Let's take a moment here. I'm not asking you to play hard to get with your children. This isn't a game. This is about energy. It's about shifting from a space of waiting to a space of living. From trying to get closer by holding tighter, to creating closeness by standing taller. And it's okay if this sounds a bit new or uncomfortable. Many of us weren't taught how to set emotional boundaries with our own children. We were taught to sacrifice, to give endlessly, to put ourselves last. But that kind of parenting, though noble, doesn't always lead to closeness later in life. In fact, it can lead to quiet resentment on both sides. So where do we begin? We begin by reclaiming our value. We begin by stepping into a different kind of strength, not loud, not demanding, but steady. We begin by gently pulling back from the urge to overgive and leaning into the practice of simply being whole. Because the truth is, when your children see you as someone who is centered, who is calm, who respects themselves, they want to be around you. They trust your presence. They seek it. You become the strong oak tree, not the desperate branch. And the oak tree doesn't chase. It draws people in just by being rooted. Let's take a deep breath together here. You haven't failed. You haven't lost your chance. You are simply stepping into a new chapter of parenthood, one where love and respect walk side by side. And that begins with how you carry yourself every single day. You don't have to become someone else to be valued. You don't need to play games or pretend to be cold or act like you don't care. That's not what this is about. What matters is shifting the posture of your heart, from leaning forward, always reaching, to standing upright, feeling grounded in your worth. It's a small adjustment on the inside, but it changes everything on the outside. You might be surprised how quickly your energy changes when you begin living your life for you again. That doesn't mean you stop caring about your children. It means you stop tying your happiness to their attention. It means waking up and asking yourself, what do I want to do today that fills me up? Not, what do I need to do to stay on their radar? When you stop chasing, something interesting happens. People start noticing your absence. They feel your pull without you saying a word. And that includes your kids. It may take time. They may not say it, but they will feel it. Now let's talk more about what makes someone a high-value parent. This term might sound like something from a business seminar, but I promise you, it's deeply human. At its core, being high value means having qualities that others instinctively respect, admire, and are drawn to. Not because you demand it, but because you embody it. One of those qualities is emotional steadiness. Life throws curveballs at all of us. But when your kids see you handle challenges without falling apart, without blaming, without making drama, they remember. They store that in the part of their brain labeled safe. And people, of all ages, seek out safe energy. It doesn't mean you never cry or never ask for help. It means you don't collapse every time something goes wrong. You learn how to rise. Another quality is self-respect. It shows up in the little things. How you speak about yourself, how you let others treat you, how you carry your body, even how you dress. You don't have to be polished, but you should feel like you matter to you. When your kids see that you value yourself, they learn how to value you too. And then there's presence. You know, in this age of distraction, presence is almost a superpower. It's rare. When you give someone your full attention, not trying to fix them, not waiting to speak, they feel it. But just as importantly, when you choose to be fully present in your own life, with your meals, your hobbies, your friends, your memories, your children sense that too. It creates a quiet dignity around you, a lightness, and they want to come near. Now let me be very clear. This doesn't mean you can't love deeply. It doesn't mean you stop being a caring parent. What it means is that you stop loving in a way that drains you. You start loving in a way that fills you and fills the room around you. Some of you might be wondering, but what if my child is truly distant? What if they've cut me off completely or we've had a falling out? I hear you. That pain is real. And sometimes there's no easy fix. But what you do still have control over, always, is how you show up to your own life. Even if they're not talking to you now, your energy still reaches them. In ways you may never see. A birthday card, a memory shared with someone else, a peaceful story that finds its way to their ears. Kids, even grown ones, carry their parents inside them, for better or worse. So when you shift from neediness to steadiness, even if they don't say it, they will feel it. And one day, that might be the reason they come back. You can't force connection, but you can become the kind of person who's easy to connect with. And that begins with boundaries. Yes, even with your own children. Now, boundaries aren't about pushing people away. They're about honoring your time, your peace, and your values. For example, if a child only calls when they need something and never just to check in, it's okay to gently say, "I love helping you, but I also miss just hearing your voice." If they cancel plans at the last minute over and over again, it's okay to say, "I understand things come up, but my time is important too." It may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you've spent decades being accommodating. But standing up for yourself, with kindness, is one of the most powerful ways to be seen. And being seen is the first step to being valued again. Something else that often surprises parents. Your kids are still watching you evolve. Just because you're older doesn't mean your story is done. In fact, sometimes the most inspiring thing a child can witness is a parent changing. Not because they were forced to, but because they chose to. When your son sees you pick up painting again after 40 years, or your daughter hears you started volunteering at the library, it does something inside them. It shifts how they see you, not just as mom or dad, but as a full human being. And when you become more than just the role you played in their childhood, you start building a new kind of relationship, one between equals. Some people spend their whole lives trying to earn respect through effort. But what if respect comes not from what you give, but from who you are? And who you are is someone with decades of wisdom, life experience, and love to offer, not just to your kids, but to the world around you. You've been through seasons. You've weathered storms. You've learned what really matters. That has value, real, radiant value, but only if you allow yourself to stand in it. Let your kids see you whole. Let them see you confident. Let them see you curious about life, open to new friendships, willing to laugh at yourself, willing to say no without guilt, willing to say yes without begging. Because that's when you stop being just a parent waiting by the phone. and you become a magnetic force in their life. One they want to be near. One they don't feel burdened by, but drawn to. And when that shift happens, whether gradually or all at once, you'll notice something beautiful. You're no longer chasing love. You're living in it. You've probably heard the saying, people remember how you made them feel. And with children, especially adult children, that truth runs even deeper. They may forget a birthday or a gift you gave them years ago, but they will never forget the energy you carried when you spoke to them, whether it was guilt, pressure, or peace. That's why becoming a high-value parent isn't about having the perfect words or the most impressive achievements. It's about what you radiate. Do you bring calm or chaos into a room? Do you speak with confidence or cling to their validation? Do you make space for who they are, even when they're different from who you raised? See, many parents fall into the trap of holding on to an old image of their child. The 5-year-old who needed help tying their shoes, or the teenager who rolled their eyes at dinner. But your children have grown. They have become people you might not fully recognize, with beliefs, habits, and boundaries of their own. If we continue to treat them like the younger version we remember, we push them away without realizing it. But when you speak to them as fellow adults, when you respect their growth, even when it's uncomfortable, you do something powerful. You earn their respect in return. That's the dance of high-value relationships. Not dominance, not obedience. Mutual respect. A willingness to evolve the relationship as time passes. You don't cling to the past, you build something new in the present. Letting go of control doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop trying to manage every outcome. It means trusting that the roots you planted will hold, and if they don't, that you still have a life worth living regardless of who shows up. And maybe that's the final piece to becoming the kind of parent your kids are drawn to, accepting that your job is no longer to teach or fix or correct. Your job now is to inspire, by how you live, by how you age, by how you adapt and carry your story with grace. When your children see you embracing this stage of life with strength, not the fake kind, but the real kind that shows up as humor, flexibility, and peace, they will be curious. When they see you setting boundaries not from anger, but from clarity, they will be challenged. And when they feel your love coming not from need, but from fullness, they will want to come closer. That's the kind of parent who gets chased. Not because you made them feel guilty, not because you gave more than you had, but because they see something in you they admire. A kind of quiet, dignified presence that doesn't demand attention. It simply deserves it. Now, I know some of you watching this may be feeling a mix of hope and sadness. Maybe you're thinking, I wish I'd known this sooner. Or, what if I've already done too much damage? Let me stop you there. It's never too late to shift how you show up. Your children may have a history with you, but they also have a present. They have a future, and you have today. Today, you can start speaking differently. Today, you can pause before jumping to fix something. Today, you can choose peace instead of pressure. And if you do it again tomorrow, and the next day, the energy begins to shift. And here's something else. The more you practice this way of being, not chasing, not waiting, not begging, the more freedom you'll feel. You may even start to enjoy your own company again. You might find joy in things you'd forgotten about. Gardening, painting, books, baking, walks, old music, new ideas. You start becoming someone you actually enjoy being around, and that draws people to you more than anything else ever could. You're not doing this to get your kids back. You're doing it to get you back. Because once you stop living on the edge of someone else's love, you start building a foundation of your own. A place where you can rest, reflect, and rise. And when your children come to visit, not out of duty but out of desire, they'll step into that same grounded energy. And they'll want to stay longer. They'll want to listen. They'll want to share. Because they won't be visiting a person who's waiting for their love to feel whole. They'll be visiting someone who is already whole. And that kind of presence is irresistible. So, if you've been waiting for a sign to stop chasing and start living, this is it. You have permission to stop begging for attention. You have permission to take up space in your own life. You have permission to become magnetic again, not by what you give, but by who you are. You've earned that right. Through all the years, all the tears, all the love you poured into others. Now some of that love belongs to you. And if this spoke to you in any way, if it reminded you of your own strength, your own worth, your own power to choose again, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. You never know who might be reading, who might need to hear your story, your wisdom, your voice. If this video felt helpful or healing, don't forget to click like. It helps this message reach others who may be feeling the same. And if you'd like more honest, heart-centered conversations like this, we invite you to subscribe to our channel, Strong Elderly Life. Because growing older doesn't mean fading away. It means stepping into your power in a new, beautiful way. You are not forgotten. You are not finished. You are not too late. You're just beginning, and we're so glad you're here. Here's to living your best life at any age.